the money to different subcommittees in different ministries. And the Ministry of Works happened to be one, and the Ministry of ICT. And I have brought officers from there, because by the time the auditors were carrying out the auditing, they did not bring up their accountability in time. So the auditors never captured them, and then to remain an audit. However, later on, they submitted the files. We showed them, the external auditors, and the external said that no, since we have already audited, these files can go to PAC. So they are here.
For us to audit, to turn this committee into an audit bureau.
Maybe they
Chair, maybe the as at the time of audit.
Just know that, for example, the report did not have only the 2.6 billion. It had 8, but the 8 is accounted for. 8.3 is well accounted for. It is 2.6 billion. Let's go for one. 58 million relate to unspent. Please, before they explain, let's go for the detail. 58.8 relate to unspent balances that were where no evidence of return of the funds to Uganda consolidated funds was provided as required by law. So this was money that was not utilized, that ought to have been returned. No evidence of return. Second, 1.29 billion relate to expenditures where the procurement process did not fully comply with the PPDA regulations and guidelines. 12.3 million relate to expenditure where no evidence was produced for the withholding tax. We produced that withholding tax was deducted from the suppliers. 1.2 billion relates to fuel expenditure that was not supported. So this is far from that the auditor didn't look at them. The auditor looked at them, and this is his verdict. They need to convince us beyond reasonable doubt that I should not send them to CID straight away. That's what it is. So your explanation that there is accountability to give to this committee, no. The auditor saw the books, saw everything, and he is fully convinced beyond reasonable doubt. But that's why this committee exists. We cannot say we are consumers of the Auditor General's report holistically. You have one last chance to explain. Failure to, don't even ask for resolution of this committee. Madam there will take charge of you. And immediately.
Thank you, Chair. Rightfully, as you concluded, indeed, all funds were accounted for, and the unspent balances were explained. You went through item by item, but on a general statement at the time of the audit, for some of the attachments that you find into this report, when payment documentation. So you find that services were paid for after, and these were paid for on the basis of complete attachments. But I'll go one by one. For the unspent, I'll ask the Assistant Commissioner Accounts to explain the 58 million. Then we go one by one as we discussed. Thank you.
honorable members, through CME. It is true at the time of audit, the unspent balance was 58,838,197. However, there was an ongoing payment requisition of 17,702,000 that had not been completed. This was later completed and paid on the 18th of December 2024, leaving unspent balance of 41,136,197. The unspent balance was due to the difference between the estimated cost and the actual contract price, and the ministry has since returned the unspent balances to the consolidated fund. Honorable Chair and members, we have a receipt of the consolidated fund, and we have the payment supporting documents of the 1702 that was still in process.
Can you speak to the query of the auditor? As to the effects, is that actually your explanation is an afterthought. The auditor looked at your books of accounts and realized that 58 relate to unspent balances where no evidence of return of the funds was provided as required by law. So you are spending more of this money after, by this time the auditor said these were unspent balances. And during the exit meeting, you could not convince him that or her that you are still pending payments. Not so? The auditor is here, can speak to himself.
Honorable Chair and members, we didn't have an exit
management letter to Minister of Works, because the memorandum of understanding was that each entity which has received money will directly account to the Auditor General. So when we gave the management letter to Minister of Works, they did not respond. So we took all our observations as they are, because they had not responded to us. So now the response they are giving us would have come that time, but the time we requested, they didn't respond. So that's why they are here. By the time they brought them, the report had been produced. I said, no, we cannot look at them after the report has been processed.
When did NAM take place? January
2024.
January 2024. This audit report was concluded in December 2024. A whole year. And even the fact was June, 6 months after. For all intent and purposes, looking at that time, does your explanation stand?
Mr. Chairman, maybe if you should also answer, when you received the management letter, did you respond as to why you were unable to
Can you repeat your question?
Please. But after, because the auditor has told us that he wrote a management letter to them, requiring them to submit the what? The expenditures. After receiving that letter, what did she do?
Now that we are in May, you want to produce evidence.
Regarding with the fact that it may not have been part of our preparation, we are requesting if she recomposes herself so that we confirm whether there was actually a response made. Because when audit came, the activity of them compiling what they picked.
But Mr. Chairman,
Don't force me to go to the ministry to produce a management letter. Because once I ask for that management letter, I may even go now and query the 8.
and besides that,
Because that now will be a fresh saying, why did the auditor query this? I don't think it benefits you to take that route. The only thing is you can demonstrate that you responded and the auditor ignored. I give you 2 minutes and I make my ruling. 2 minutes if you have a response.
Mr. Chairman, we have January.
Fred, keep your mic off. Okay.
Thank you.
So, Honorable.
On 30th January, we have a submission of the draft management letter signed by the Permanent Secretary to the Office of the Auditor General, which we can tender in and share 2025. 30th January 2025.
But, sir, this report came out. Now what you are doing, a report, you panic. You are making your case worse. After seeing a report, audited report, which was outside in December 31st, not so? And it goes online. You see this, now you begin to forge, to panic and say, now I have this. It can't fly.
Chair, through the chair, I would like to know, right back that time, was there any reason that you would like to learn from you? Why didn't you write to the auditors when they sent in the early? Just tell us verbally, maybe it was so important.
The approach the chairman had started his query with was to the different areas queried, because each of them might give us a context to make a proper conclusion on the entire matter before you. Because if we handle the unspent in isolation of these other queries, because it will bring the entire context within which probably why the response is.
By the way, when you look at this is a standalone. Here is querying unspent balances not forwarded to the consolidated account. And mark you, this money was all spent. That's his conclusion. Can we proceed to another one?
and yet at first when you asked him to explain, he referred to her, and now she is referring to him. What is that?
No, it's okay. That's why they came together. We are not going to...
Auditor General, of the Auditor General, the subject, draft management letter on the audit of the utilization of funds provided to the Ministry of Works.
Submitted when date?
Date of submission received at OAG on 29th January, both OAG and Office of the President.
29th January. You bring that letter here. Honorable Sir, and look at it. Just know that query 1 is sustained. And the implication of it, I've already told you. You still have a minute or two to convince a committee otherwise.
Now that they claim that some of the money was not utilized as the query stands, do they have any proper accountability by this time to show that the money maybe has been taken back to the consolidated fund? That one maybe can help.
Yeah, but you see, we've asked very simple questions, sir. That a financial year, the conference took place in January. A financial year closed in June. Audit closed in December. You cannot now say along January some date after the audit report is out, then you are submitting evidence to the Auditor General. It's completely By the way, once they submit a report, they can no longer do much with that report. Yes. But I want to move forward.
You've talked of payment that was in process.
Sir.
What are the dates? Are these dates that are dating back before the audit or after the audit?
Sir, this is unspent